Thank you for downloading Atypical, the podcast. If you enjoy our work, all we ask is that you leave us a review in your podcast player and share it with your friends. It helps us reach more people, and it's always great to hear from you. Thank you again, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Atypical, the podcast.
I'll do the normal sort of hello and welcome thing and say thank you for coming back and joining and all the rest of it. I'm not going to interrupt your food, am I, by doing this?
No.
Okay.
I've just had some cheese and crackers, and so I'm not hungry.
You're not?
It's a blue cheese. Oh, I had quite a bit.
Oh, we do like a nice blue cheese.
It was strong.
Well, that's good though. It means it's got flavour. Hello and welcome to Atypical, the podcast where we look at life from a more atypical perspective. My name's Simon Heather, your host, and you'll all be thrilled to hear it's not just me again this week. You get to hear somebody else's voice. I'm joined again by my wonderful friend...
Sam. I don't know how to go with it, following on from such an amazing introduction, really.
Well, by being an amazing person, obviously.
It's me, guys! It's Sam! Don't put that bit in.
I won't, but I might have to make that like the cold call. Sorry. This is what happens. I get left alone with a podcast for too long, and then somebody comes back and I just go completely insane. It's like, oh my god, I have people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's not just me and my little otter here.
No.
Because because doing things together is always a good thing, and it's one of those things that actually it sort of benefits us as a species, but as a society as well. I mean, we were talking earlier on about trade unions and why they're sort of quite important and helpful to people. Some of the stuff that's been going on in the last few years, because as some of the listeners know, I've been a trade union rep for many years. I know you are as well, and it's sort of one of those things which is well, I mean, you don't have to be if you don't want to be.
Quite. I don't, but I am.
Yeah, but I mean, so what?
Only new,
yeah,
brand new to it.
But what made you think about becoming a trade union rep?
Oh, it feels like an interview now. Well, what made me feel like becoming a trade union rep?
Well, I mean, I can tell you the story of why I became one, but it's less interesting, I suspect.
Because I have had I've had experiences of the positive things a strong and well organized trade union can do for the individual, and I felt at a point in my life that I would be able to start contributing back into that with various experience and knowledge that I've gained over the years, and I felt like I was in a place that I could take that on sort of as a plate to spin, as it were. And yeah, I thought the time was right, and so when a place came up, I asked somebody to nominate me and then somebody to second me, because that's all part of a democratic trade union, is being elected in by your peers.
Oh, so you got elected in as a rep? You didn't just sort of apply and...
Oh yeah, no, well, I suppose every union's different, but the way we do it is we sort of put a notice up on the union board in the brew rooms, and you sort of put your name down and you get somebody to nominate and then second you, and you either stand uncontested, which is quite often the case, or not. And then if there's two people, then there's a vote held, and the members within that particular area get to vote on who they want as a rep, and so then you get elected as a rep. So I don't know how that differs to yours. I assumed that was the model most people followed, to be honest.
So I a very long time ago, in 2010, I'd not long been in that job, my old job. I was still a probationer, and I'd written an email to the management about something to do with health and safety. Anyway, my friend Danny sort of came up and tapped me on the shoulder and went, so you know a thing or two about health and safety. We need a rep here. Would you like to be the health and safety rep? That's more or less how it happened. It's like, sure. And I don't think I was ever actually elected into that particular position. I just sort of became the health and safety rep for the effectively for the branch, I suppose is the terminology most people.
Yeah.
And sort of from there, I ended up, because I became an LGBT liaison officer with my old employer. And sort of that then became, you'd be an equalities person as well, and I got promoted, and I took on various sort of bits and pieces. And somehow I ended up as a national young members rep. That I was elected into, but since I was one of only one people that stood for that position, I don't know whether or not that counts as I got elected, or it just sort of nobody else stood, and so therefore it kind of just happened. So
that's that
yeah.
end part of it is very similar to how we sort of do things. Is generally you do stand unopposed because
not enough people want to get involved.
Yeah, not everybody wants to get involved with it, and you will find that other reps will sort of not sort of give you the nod and say, "Oh, you should apply. You'll definitely get it," sort of thing. But more a case of you'll find that people will go, "You'd make a really good rep," and recommend that somebody puts forward for one because they think they'd make a really good rep in wherever they are. So it's one of those, but literally, like, anybody can do it as long as you've got a recognised trade union within your workplace, obviously.
Absolutely.
And your employer agrees to however many reps you want, I guess, because there's quotas, at least in our place. There's so many, we're allowed so many reps per employees, sort of thing, or per members in an area.
It's kind of interesting, I think, because it's certainly in the UK. I mean, trade unions, we sort of trace them back to the Industrial Revolution, and I promise I'm not going to go off on one about all of that again. But
I wish I had my notes because I went down a right rabbit hole when we did this on our course.
Oh, did you now?
Yeah. We sort of did a little sort of group exercise. It was like, right, go back and trace the roots of trade unions. And like I say, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I probably went a bit too far, really, because I got to all the sort of usual places that you do with going down that rabbit hole. And I'm not going to start trying to quote any because I cannot remember it. I was using heavily Google. But you just can keep going back and back and back and back and back and back until you get to a time where you're like, did they really exist this far back? And it's not so much what we would recognise as a modern trade union, obviously, but
no.
It's all part of the history and sort of how they've developed over the years. It's
fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and you sort of think about now when you describe what a trade union is to someone, you sort of talk about their goal being to take on, I suppose, a dodgy employer, to fight for decent wages, to keep you safe at work, to win you reasonable hours, to give you a voice, and I suppose to enable people like you and me to shout out on behalf of those who perhaps maybe can't for whatever reason. That show of solidarity and as you've described, the democracy of electing you into that role, I think gives it a real power.
Oh yeah.
And also being able to provide advice and support, I think, is one of the real things that I used to love being able to do, was sort of being able to make that small help in someone's life. But you sort of, like you say, if you go back and look at some of the early stuff, like the Tolpuddle martyrs, for example, who were persecuted and sort of locked up just because they spoke out against exploitation. The unions as they grew in the 1800s and sort of the economic stuff. But you sort of think about what they've achieved for us over the years as well. I think it's really it's massive, really, and and sort of the improvements they've made to people's lives in general.
Oh yeah, I think I think it should. We should be sort of educating people more about this sort of stuff, like what trade unions have actually done for people in the workplace, because a lot of people don't realise, like, you take your weekends for granted, you take holiday pay for granted, sick pay for granted, and they're all things that have been won through trade unionism over the years. And why?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You went so quiet. I thought it stopped recording again.
No, I'm still here. I'm sorry. Let me turn up my gain. Maybe that'll help.
So creepy. Yeah, they have it. Like even in modern times, they've done a lot, and there's a lot of them that are still trying to campaign for even more. I would be shocked to know of any trade union that wouldn't want to campaign for things like the 35-hour week. That's probably a big one that's close.
This is brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I work 35 hours a week, and it's so much better for my health than working 48 as I used to.
Exactly. So, and yeah, it's interesting because I'm part of a union that was part of the 30. There was an 18-week strike for the 35-hour week. I'm going to Google now.
I mean, we've seen the largest coordinated walkout in over a decade was this year in February, where about, I think, 500,000 or so people withdrew their labour, and sort of some of the things that they've tried to win out of that. I mean, it's incredible, really. I mean, so certainly in the UK, we have the most restrictive union laws in the Western world. We've got so many anti-strike laws and everything else. It's virtually impossible to do stuff. I mean, they're even threatening now to sack staff who go on strike, which is incredible, really.
Are you talking about the minimum service level bill? That's
yes, it really is
a vile piece of legislation.
You sort of think back to some of the things that strikes have won. Grunwick, for example, was defending migrant workers. The Dagenham machinists, they delivered effectively the Equal Pay Act, to try and make things more fair across the world. And so attacking people's rights to strike is such a backward step for society. It undermines our power to stand up for each other, for our rights. And defending that kind of thing, I think it is not wanting to go too far, but it is an absolute attack on justice and equality and fairness.
I just found the information.
Oh yeah, go on, share.
So it was part of in 1998. There's more than, and I'm reading from the Alex Ferry Foundation website now. There's more than 1998, more than 200,000 trade union members contributed to a 35-hour week fund established by Alex Ferry, the General Secretary of the Confederation of Shipbuilding and Engineering Unions, or CSEU. And it was for fighting for the 35-hour week. And
okay.
Yeah, it got a little sort of complicated eventually because the government tried to take the money because it became an orphaned fund. So who was it that tried to step in and take it? But anyway, the government stepped in and tried to take it, basically, the money. So instead, they turned it into a foundation, a charity foundation called the Alex Ferry Foundation, because this money got to a lot of money, like 200,000 members paying into it. And granted, you don't need to be paying in all that much at the time, and the members sacrificed quite a fair amount of money.
Oh yeah.
Especially at the time, it meant a lot to them what they were sacrificing for this campaign. Excuse me. And unfortunately they had to do something with it because they couldn't. And I encourage anybody that's interested to actually go and read the Ferry Foundation website, which is ferryfoundation.org.uk. And you can actually read information about it because a lot of people have not got a full understanding of what went on, and they've got a lot of information on the website that they can dispel some myths.
I'll include the link in the show notes.
But yeah, so anyway, long story short, this money got put into a charity, and it is now used for research grants, community grants, and it's all still geared towards pushing for the government to make changes so that 35-hour week is like standard, basically. That's their ultimate goal, is that 35-hour week is what we're aiming for. And it's funded some amazing research, and it's all available to sort of view on the website. But yeah, a lot of the membership that I'm with, or the union that I'm part of, it was members gone by and members that are still part of our union have been part of that strike and have seen that sort of action, and it's inspiring to hear about and learn about. And yeah, I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, things like that are great because, I mean, too much overwork, the impact it has on people is really quite worrying, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is. The long-term effects of sacrificing your time is significant, and we shouldn't sort of undervalue. Is that not undervalue? Yeah.
Underestimate?
Underestimate. We shouldn't underestimate. Underestimate what that impact it has on our lives. And I hear about other things online. Like there's something, apparently 80,000 hours is a thing. I think it's more of an American thing, but it's something like you only get 80,000 hours is what the average person gets in on the planet, as it were. And they're sort of, I think it's not so much trade unions, so I'm going off on a tangent, but the idea is, I think it's more for science sort of individuals, that to guide them into something that is really important to them and like make use of their time. But it just sings to me. Sort of it's true of anybody doing anything. Do something that you love, that's important to you, and you feel like you can feel like you've made a difference, or
absolutely,
whether it's to you or to the greater good. Enjoy what you do, because as far as we know, you don't get another go.
Well,
you don't get another go round.
Hello, this is Simon in the middle of, I'm editing actually at the moment, and it's that kind of week, because it's in fact National Inclusion Week here in the UK, and I've been somewhat busy. Apart from just my ordinary job, I've had to don my delightful little working cap as the vice chair of a disability network. The thing about National Inclusion Week, and I thought, I could talk about this whilst I jump in here and break up whatever it is that Sam and I are talking about. Probably nothing interesting, let's be honest here. I wanted to talk about this really quite splendid annual week, because it's been going on for a decade now, and it's often filled with, and if you're in the UK, you may have encountered some activities and events sort of across your companies and all the rest of it. And if so, that is rather lovely. But I thought, let's take a moment, sit back, sip our tea, watch the otters play in the brook, or at least that's what I was doing earlier on, and maybe ponder for a moment your workplace practices, maybe your firm's ethos, and whether or not the people you work with and for truly embrace inclusivity, but especially where disability is concerned. So many firms often sort of toss around that phrase, don't they? That diversity and inclusion. It's often linked to ethnicity and gender. And indeed, many establishments might have some pretty decent policies to mend that gender pay disparity, because holy moly, there is a big gender pay disparity. Or perhaps to try and bolster the number of ethnic minorities sort of working with them. However, it's a bit like assuming an otter is just another water-loving creature. Yes, I know, I've got them on the mind, I can't help it. And this definition becomes woefully inadequate, and it fails to encompass the vast facets of diversity that so enrich our societies. Diversity is absolutely the tapestry, if you will, of traits and experiences that craft our individual identities. This kind of tapestry isn't woven merely from threads like ethnicity and gender or religion, but prominently feature disability. And it's worth noting, especially whilst we cherish the differences in our fellow beings, be they human or otter or pup or bear or other things, that the disability community stands as the world's largest minority group. Any of us in the unpredictable dance of life could join their ranks. Globally, a staggering 1 in 7 people live with a disability. From this group, and right here in the UK, where I've got the most data I can get hold of very easily, a whopping 80% have disabilities that are unseen. That's around 10 million people in the UK. And if we scale that up, that's around 1.3, 1.4 billion worldwide. And indeed, diversity is not just an adjective. For want of a better term, for me at least, it's a call to action for inclusivity. Whether in our society, our offices, or even the very structures of our towns and cities, the challenge is to ensure that everyone can delve into, that they can relish, that they can participate in all of life's wonderful offerings without any kind of hindrance. Now, unless you happen to live in the remotest corners, perhaps that bit of the British countryside where it stretches unendingly into the distance, or where your only companions might be sheep and robins, diversity is inescapable. It punctuates our offices, our local shops, schools, hospitals, theatres, if you still go to a theatre post-COVID. It's everywhere. And as a collective, both as sort of individuals and on a grander global scale, embracing and respecting this tapestry of cultures and backgrounds does immeasurable benefit for all of us. Thinking about just your workplace, if it is bursting with varied perspectives, that breathes life into your modern, invigorating ideas. And it's a hotbed for innovation. When someone you work with senses genuine acceptance and equitable treatment, you feel more naturally connected to your role, more committed, perhaps, to the company or the people you work with. Hell, I find myself more, I suppose, eager to tackle a day's difficulties, knowing that I'm going to be respected for who I am. And such an environment like this often translates into reduced stress. It gives people better mental well-being, and you feel absolutely, seen and heard. But more than anything else, you feel valued, you feel wanted. This is part of what Sam and I were talking about with some of the trade union stuff. A huge part of working in trade unions is making sure that people are taken care of and they're paying rations. But a big part of it also is about making sure you're valued, that you are brought into that workplace, that you are treated not just as a number, but as a human being, as a person with unique background, with lived experience that can help not just the company, but also the people you work with. As I've said in my own organization, for any kind of business, the journey towards genuine diversity has to kick off with a recruitment policy that's utterly blind to ethnicity, to gender, to age, to disability, to sexual orientation or religious beliefs. It has to mandate some kind of forging a workplace where opportunities don't play favourites. We have all probably seen far too many times where a particular person gets into the role because they went to the right kind of school, they wear the right kind of tie, their skin is the right kind of colour, their gender and age are correct. But by championing inclusivity, you're not only acknowledging each staff member, but you're kind of empowering them. You're trying to influence the very heart of what it is you do, be that actually really in your business or as a society, as a community. But back to the point here, because it's something I'm really trying to push in my own organizations that I work with, is the commitment to inclusivity has to start at the recruitment phase, ensuring methods don't unintentionally ostracize or unfairly challenge those with disabilities because of outdated interviewing conventions or blinkered perspectives. For example, sticking stubbornly to traditional interviews. I know it throws me off. I know and quite a lot of my neurodivergent friends, it throws them off. We just don't thrive in that kind of setting. On this podcast even, we've talked about that stark employment disparity. I believe I was chatting with Marianne about this the other day, that especially for autistic people, and it's pretty damn alarming to note that it's around 21 point something % of autistic adults, Georgia, please don't tell me off, I know you know better, are employed in any capacity. That's 1 in 5. And this contrasts incredibly sharply with the 81-ish % of non-disabled adults who are in full-time work and 52% or so of other disabled adults. As a good number of my co-hosts are likewise neurodivergent, this is a pretty scary figure and something I think we can all try and work together to improve. But it's not all just neurodiversity on things that matter. I was talking to a colleague of mine, a manager in our technology department, who pointed out that although there's been a gradual shift towards diversification in tech, women only occupy a quarter, 1/4 of roles in tech. And when we ponder upon the intersections of race, of faith, of sexual orientation and age and neurodivergence and other disabilities, that representation dwindles alarmingly, and particularly among upper echelons of leadership. So although National Inclusion Week started on Monday, whenever that was, yesterday, day before, I'm losing track of the days, honestly, the 25th of September, and it runs through to Sunday the 1st, it does serve as a splendid catalyst to spark dialogue and foster change. It's vital that any momentum we start to build isn't just tethered down to this 1 week. The quest, I suppose, for progress should be a perpetual one. It should be constantly pursued. It should be assessed. It should be refined to ensure those, well, frankly, those benefits for all of us in our societies, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our politics, whatever it is, that inclusion part of it will always make things a bit better. Anyway, that was my cut-in from editing the show. We'll go back to whatever it was I was talking about before. But anyway, so we were talking about working and too many hours and what it does to you. And you have a bit of experience of this recently, don't you?
No.
No? You didn't accidentally do an entire month of work and have like 1 day off?
No, I didn't.
No?
Definitely not. And yeah, I did quite a bit of overtime.
But how did that affect you? How did it make you feel? What did it do to you?
I felt isolated, I guess. I was busy at work and there was plenty going on, so I didn't struggle for things to do, but it was very much work, eat, sleep, repeat sort of thing. And I got to a point now. I was actually even struggling to just sort of message people because it was almost too much to engage with people. Like even with just simple, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I can't do this. Don't just get through this day. Fast forward." You know. So yeah, it definitely had an impact. But like I've just done my week now, and like I usually work 3 days a week. So, but I had an extra day off, so I actually only worked 2 days, and it was amazing because it was just over. Like I went in and then I went home, and I was like, "Oh, it's Friday tomorrow." It's great. Very good. Right.
So, there was a couple of random bits of news I wanted to talk about, just because.
Talk about the random bits of news. Let's see what they are.
Let me share with you this one. So there was an article that I spotted in the Independent and in a few other news sites as well the other day about a pastor in America, in Missouri, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the town, because last time I tried pronouncing, actually no, this one's fine, I can pronounce Richland in Missouri. So there you go. It's not like me mispronouncing Mesa as Mesa, because I got letters about that. Anyway, so this pastor from a church in Missouri has suggested that autism is caused by demonic forces. And I feel like I'm going to need to put some kind of musical interlude in there, because like whenever you say demonic forces, it feels like something you should, have a.
Well, that's not a bad show. To be fair,
exactly.
I don't think.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's this pastor in Missouri who seems to think that it's autism is caused by demonic forces, and he seems to suggest that you can be treated if you just cast the demon out.
Ah, of course, yes.
Yeah. So
sounds a bit like conversion therapy.
Don't get me started on that again. I did an episode recently on ABA, which is effectively autistic conversion therapy. We should probably do an episode on conversion therapy as well, because holy sod, there is some stuff there. Anyway, so this Pastor Morrow of Beulah Church in Richland has received a certain amount of criticism for spreading misinformation and frankly quite offensive stuff.
Is it in America?
It is in America, yes. Missouri is in the United States.
We love you, Americans.
Yes.
I'm trying to be nice to your listeners. That's what I'm not suggesting that.
And I'm going to quote here. I know a minister who has seen lots of kids that are autistic, that he cast the demon out and they were healed. And then he had to pray and their brain was rewired and they were fixed.
I mean, he should get drug tested.
Yes. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's a shame. I'm all for people believing in their faith, and that's their choice to make,
absolutely,
and they're fully
yes.
entitled to that. It worries me when these people that are in positions of quite a bit of power over other people start making these sort of claims and accusations, and that isn't really healthy for what's it doing? What's the advantage? What are they? It's not benefiting society by sort of suggesting that to anyone, and all it's going to do is certain people will probably believe it, and it's then going to put people potentially at risk of
that's
not getting the help and support that they need in that situation. And it's just a shame. It's like not the way we should be doing things, guys.
No, precisely. And he went on to say, if it's not demonic, then we have to say God made them that way. Like that's the only other explanation. Why does my kid have autism? Well, either the devil has attacked them, he's brought this infirmity upon them, he's got them where he wants them, and or God just doesn't like them very much and made them that way. Well, my God doesn't make junk. God doesn't make mess-ups. Now, I think the real problem here is the fact that A is suggesting that autistic people are mess-ups and are, demon spawn. But more importantly, that could, like you say, very reasonably lead to somebody not getting the help and support they need, or worse, being mistreated by people who feel that actually torture to cast out the demon is the correct thing to do to an autistic person. And that takes me back to the whole ABA thing, where literally torturing children because they have autism it's not really acceptable. And this is the kind of thing that, unfortunately, could radicalize people into being abusive towards autistic people.
Yeah, totally. And it is. It's that sort of, the problem is it does radicalize people into believing certain things, and it's that abuse of power, isn't it, over other people that are vulnerable. Because anybody, I don't know. I don't like to sort of judge other people for their faith and belief or anything like that. But I do believe that religions are all well and good, but the moment you start sort of using or manipulating that religion into such a way that it's not helping people by their choice anymore, or it's doing more harm to people, or saying, do this, believe what we say, or we're going to hurt you X, Y, Z, or, you're going to go to here, and, they should be going, come and sort of, listen to our stories. And, if you want to be part of it, then you're welcome. And if you don't want to be, then that's also good, and that's great. Crack on. You're not hurting anyone. Do no harm. Like, I don't know. That's just what I believe, I guess. Maybe that's too radical of a view as well.
I don't think it is. I have huge amounts of tolerance for I've got a number of friends who are quite religious and that. But it's when it starts being used as a justification, or when it's actually used to directly attack people. I think that's when it starts to cross over and becoming unacceptable.
When religion is weaponized.
Well, yes, basically. The issue here is the fact that he's saying if you have autism, you are possessed by a demon, which is sort of one of the worst things that I think can happen to a Christian, is to be possessed by a demon. So it's saying that you can't be a real person, you can't have your own faith, you couldn't get to heaven if you died whilst you've got autism. If you want to put it into those terms, and that's just not really right. And also that it's just frankly insulting to suggest that I am a demon because I'm autistic. I'm a demon just because I'm chaotic. But
is there any more on it? Is it just like one random pastor has said this, or is it sort of supported and endorsed by the church that they're part of? Or I don't know how. I don't know how far it's. Well, no, I have to admit, I don't really know how the whole church system even works anymore. So it's a different sort of style of doing things, but it has certainly caused a few upsets. I would hope that there are people within his religion and his his group or whatever that have probably gone, nah, mate, you're stretching there a bit, but maybe also not.
I think that also there's a bit of a concern because he's a board member for the school district, so there could be some impact on children across that area as well, which obviously doesn't exactly reflect terribly well on the local board of education.
No.
And the impacts that could have, because obviously, if you've got an autistic person in a school and somebody misunderstands what this is, they could be subject to quite unpleasant bullying, for example. So yes. I think that's possibly why it's become more of an issue, is that it wasn't just said within the confines of a church, but also he has a position on the local education board. So that's probably why it's come to more notice, but it's dealt with.
Yeah, hopefully the cooler heads have prevailed and it's more a case of just a good story that has gained a bit of traction and whatnot. And nothing has been acted on from his beliefs or statements. Yeah.
It's not quite as much as the woman in New South Wales who named her child Methamphetamine Rules, but news article I spotted. So
no, I approve of this.
There was another article which I spotted from San Antonio, where they suggested that drinking diet soda during pregnancy might give your children autism. At which point I had to turn off my news aggregator and go for a little walk, because I was like, no, aspartame does not cause autism.
Yes, no,
it's just like no.
Let's just not go with the crazy science. This crazy science that is not even backed up by any science.
The crazy science that is not science.
Yes. Like, I'm going to go online now and post about stuff that I don't know, just randomly connect dots and call it science.
And you're standing for Parliament?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'd do a
Anyway,
better job.
we've just sort of rambled about weird and wonderful and strange things. I think the thing I want any listeners to take away from this is unions are good. Go and join a union. And if you feel like it, become a rep and help other people, because that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. And if you've not got a union in your workplace and think that you should have one, go and speak to one. Go phone one up and ask them how you do it. Because
Yes, the
Why not?
TUC website has a really useful little tool. I'll put a link into the show notes that can help you find a union that can represent you in your workplace. So if you're not sure if you have one or not, you can just go on there and look it up, and it'll tell you.
yes, I agree. Do that. Do it now.
Do all of the things. But yes, anyway, thank you so much for listening. We will have a more normal atypical episode, but that doesn't work, does it?
A more organised.
A more organised one, yes. We've got a bit out of sync in doing everything because of life and people and stuff. But we will have another episode soon. I'm hoping to try and get some more of our lovely co-hosts back for more interesting funness where you can all make fun of me, and
then you don't have to put up with my random ramblings.
I mean that you've just stolen my notes there, because that's exactly what I was about to say.
I didn't see them either. Just telepathically stole them.
This is the problem of having friends who know you quite well, is that they can predict you, and that's nice, but also scary, but nice.
Yes, you need to go to sleep now.
I probably do. Anyway, have a great week. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now. I was saying, you can now say
goodbye, listeners. I hope you have a lovely week until the next time you get to listen to my strangeness.
music.
I'll write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
So this is just sort of a bit of a random episode. I mean, I don't want to call it a filler.
It's going to be very random, isn't it?
I mean,
sorry.
You can't imagine what the editing's going to be like.
I already think it's going to be a nightmare for you, because I'm not being very helpful at this point.
You're always helpful. You're here, and you're helping the listeners to not be putting up with just me. So
I'm here just to break you up.
Basically, yes.
Okay, I mean,
I'm already reasonably broken, so the additional breaking up is, neither here nor there. But...
And the dish ran away with the spoon.